TII Technical Education Systems, teaching technology for tomorrow.
Okay, in this video what I would like to show you are how the math instructions work in the TIA Portal V14 Siemens program. So what I have set up are two very basic counter circuits where I have a left green push button and a left yellow push button that are each controlling separate counters. And what I want to do is I want to add the accumulated of both of those counters together. So for example, let's say we have two conveyors feeding one main conveyor, and we want to track how many products are on the main conveyor. So we can count every time a product leaves conveyor 1 or conveyor 2 onto the main conveyor. So we just set this up. Let's say there's proximity sensors counting the product as they leave the conveyor. Our left green push button could be one prox, our left green push yellow button could be the next prox. So let me show you how you do this. So let's go ahead and go down to network 3. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up the instructions. And in the instructions, we have, right above the move operations, are the math functions. And if you expand these out, you can see that there are a lot of different math functions that are available to us. You can get into some pretty high-level math if needed. But in this video, what I'd like to show you are just the basics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab an add instruction and bring this over to network 3. And so what I want to do is I want to take the accumulated value for counter 1 and counter 2 and add those together. So this is going to go to my in1. So I will use counter 1 ACC. And now notice that this is an integer file. The counter automatically creates its values in an integer format. And notice that when you select that, the add actually goes to that as well. It automatically goes to an integer. All right, and your instructor can explain that a little bit deeper, what integers mean and how they can relate to different numbers. So for our in2, what we can do is we want to go to counter 2 ACC. And again, notice that this is an integer file. So we'll click here and hit enter. So what happens is this will add counter 1 to counter 2. And now we need to define a place for this value to be stored. So we'll create a tag name and we'll say counter sum value, okay, 1, and we'll hit enter, and we right click and define the tag. We want to make sure that our data type is an integer, which it is, so we'll select define here, and believe it or not, this program is ready to download. And I know this is a very simplistic example of how a math instruction works, but they're really not that complicated. You can kind of flow and create them very quickly, especially if you're data tracking. So what we want to do now is let's go ahead and download to the PLC. So let's go ahead and give it a little more room over here and turn the monitor function on. So now I created a reset as our left or right latching push button right here for both counters. So I'll make sure that they're both reset back to 0. And now what I want to do is simulate a couple boxes coming onto counter 1. So I've had 4 boxes come onto counter 1. And let's put 4 boxes coming on to counter 2. So 2 boxes have left conveyor 1, 4 boxes of left conveyor 2 onto the main conveyor. The sum value of that on the main conveyor should be 8. Okay, and you can see that it's tracking those accumulated integer numbers right above the tag number. So I can add a couple more, and it will add those together. And this is really how simple it is to create math instruction in the TIA Portal V14. Okay, so now what I want to do is let's go ahead and I want to show you a quick thing on how you can modify this. So let's say you wanted to use a subtract function, okay? So on the subtract function, what we can do is we can actually, instead of going over to the instructions and grabbing one and relabeling everything, let's say you thought we needed to add a number, but instead we needed to subtract, okay? So we'll come over here, and what you do is you highlight, you select the math instruction. In the top right-hand corner, there's a little orange triangle. If you run your mouse over it, you will see this pop up. So you can come down here and select subtract. So now what this will do is this will subtract the counter accumulated from 1 and bring it in to 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and download this and see how this works. So we'll reset both of our counters back to 0. As you can see here, both back to 0. And go down to our subtract folder, or instruction. So we'll add a couple here. Okay, so let's say this is an example where 12 boxes have moved on to a conveyor. And now we want to track as they leave the conveyor to tell us how many things are in product are in process. So every time the box leaves, it increments up. And so now what this is saying is 12 have come onto the conveyor, 7 have left the conveyor, and there are 5 left. Okay? And so this is how a subtract function works. The divide function, the multiply function, all of those basically operate the same. And you'll run through those in your TIA Technical Education Systems manual. All right, but this is an overview of how the math instructions work for the Siemens S7-1200 PLC being programmed with TIA Portal V14. Thanks for watching.